Counter-Strike is a name synonymous with competitive gaming. It's a battleground where millions of players from around the world have clashed, but in the middle of all the skill and strategies, there also lies a hidden chapter filled with game-breaking bugs, glitches, and exploits that have, for better or worse, shaped this iconic game. Starting with the CSGO beta, which contrary to popular belief, barely had any glitches, especially compared to CS2, but what it did have was flash boosting, which definitely has to be the most fun and satisfying glitch that CSGO has ever experienced, and with such easy setup you could pretty much pull it off anywhere. All you needed was a well-timed flashbang thrown under your feet, and you'd gain insane amounts of speed and height, to the point that you could even get boosted above the entire map with just a single flashbang. And this bug wasn't exclusive to CSGO either, but was also prevalent in earlier Counter-Strike titles where it was just as broken. Needless to say, a lot of people definitely loved flash boosting as a game mechanic, however it did completely ruin the whole gameplay and competitiveness of the game, so it sadly got removed fairly quickly. Now, as CSGO transitioned from its beta to full release, various spawn glitches emerged that essentially allowed you to spawn anywhere on the map, even behind the enemy team. But all of them ended up being pretty useless since they all required a bot. However, as the community dwelled deeper into this bug, a more potent version of it was eventually discovered. By simply spamming a certain button while reconnecting to a game, you could spawn in some really overpowered positions on maps like Nuke, which spawned you completely out of the map's bounds. Then Mirage, which spawned you top mid, or on Overpass, which spawned you inside an invisible wall. But this wasn't quite as useful on every map, since on maps like Office, Cache and Italy, it ended up giving you quite unfortunate spawns. Now, as we all know, the competitive mode has always been the main focus of CSGO, with everybody always doing whatever it takes in order to win. But in 2015, this got taken a step further when a cheeky little trick was discovered that allowed you to win every competitive game no matter the score. Quite ironically, this worked by calling a surrender vote during the team switch time, which then tricked the game into actually forcing the opposing team to surrender instead of yours.
Thanks for win.
And if you thought this couldn't get even more retarded, you'd be wrong, since you could also just straight up kick the enemy team entirely or crash the entire server with a simple command. On December 8, 2015, the CSGO community was ripped apart after the release of the R8 Revolver, arguably the most broken weapon upon release. But after receiving some brutal feedback from the community, the R8 was swiftly nerfed to the ground, never to be seen in the meta again. But that all changed once a new bug was discovered that basically removed the main feature of the R8. The mouse 1 delay. However, there was a catch. For this bug to actually work, you had to sacrifice half of your bullets first. But that still didn't stop players from abusing the R8 once again.
That's balanced. I tagged them all. We gotta be doing it. Oh, Jesus.
Moving on from one broken weapon to the next, we got the Zeus, which has always stayed practically untouched by the entire community, and that stayed true until 2016, when Trilux discovered the true power of the Zeus. Now, not only could you shoot through any relatively thin wall, but you could also shoot through walls that the AK couldn't. Although this did require you to shoot at a specific angle, which made it pretty unlikely to be pulled off in an actual game, but nevertheless, the possibilities were still technically endless. Now, players exploring their way out of map boundaries isn't exactly anything new, and has been achieved on countless maps. But typically, once an exploit like this is fixed, it stays that way. Ancient, on the other hand, has been exploited in a similar fashion around 5 times over the years, with each individual method being well documented on Rikuda's channel. However, I'm not going to be covering all of them. Instead, I'm only going to be talking about the latest one, which was fifthly discovered by Rikuda after Ancient received a minor update, adding 2 pillars to the B site. Now, in order to get on top of the map, you needed a fairly coordinated squad of 5, then 2 cheeky head bounces, and you were above the skybox. Once you were up there, you jump on this wall, then jump a bit more, and now the fun began. During the 2017 PGL Major, a well-known exploit at the time called the Silent Jump was used by Big against FaZe. But what a lot of people didn't notice at first glance was that other than making your jump silent, it could also be used as a literal wallhack exploit in certain scenarios. For example, if we pause this clip and compare the two, we can immediately notice the immense difference. Even though there was quite a bit of outrage from the community, the official PGL rulebook surprisingly ruled this trick legal, and at the end of the day, nobody got punished for it. Unlike the cheating incident in 2020 that resulted in 37 coaches getting banned from CSGO for abusing the Spectator glitch that essentially allowed you to spectate from the third person in a random part of the map. This exploit was abused for years by numerous amount of coaches, so I'm glad Valve took action here. But in my opinion, some of them got the ban hammer undeservingly. For example, FaZe Robin, who had only been caught using this exploit once in a game they lost while also reporting it, and he still received a 6-month suspension, even though he didn't actually use the glitch to get an advantage, unlike Twista, who knowingly used it multiple times while also celebrating his undeserving win with a little shake of his camera. One of the reasons why CSGO remains a thrilling game even after pouring thousands of hours into it is its incredible movement mechanics, and what makes the game even more exciting are the glitches surrounding them. So you already know I was balls deep in Bliss when the ladder boost was first discovered in 2021. That was essentially the same exact thing as the Flashboost, except with a ladder. And just like the Flashboost, this was yet again used to reach some pretty insane spots on a few maps, and to obviously hit some absolutely beautiful clips. There's also been a lot of glitches in CSGO that have essentially given you wall hacks, so I'm going to be quickly going through all of them, starting with the release of the graffitis in 2016. That are probably the most useless dogshit we've gotten, except it wasn't completely useless back then, because it turned out when sprayed on glass, it was only visible from one side. I can't believe how fucking ridiculously retarded this shit was, and I know this didn't quite give you wall hacks, but this definitely gave you a slight edge. Unlike the bug in 2018 that straight up removed certain textures from the game, allowing you to see straight through them. And in order to pull this off, you had to load into a custom map that was specifically designed to break these textures. And then the following year it was even worse. This time you could see anybody who was even remotely close to you through any wall, while also completely removing any grenades from the game.
Look, apparently there was a smoke there. Apparently there was a smoke there. I have no idea, but the kill feed says otherwise.
Now lastly, I think everybody remembers the floating glitch that was in the game for way too long, and while being sometimes kinda useful I guess, it wasn't really broken since nobody ever found a way to replicate it. But eventually people did find a way to replicate a similar version of this bug with a command, and this ended up being even more broken somehow. Now lastly, I wanna talk about smokes in the game that have been abused in numerous amount of ways throughout the years. And it all started with one-way smokes that definitely gave you a clear advantage but weren't really breaking the game. And then there was a glitch famously used by Monacy that allowed you to see enemies through the smoke by throwing a nade behind it, but this took a lot of skill to pull off and barely made enemies visible. But until 2019 you could see enemies in smokes on the radar 3 whole seconds before the smoke faded, which definitely has to be the most broken out of them all. And honestly, that's all the glitches I could find that were worth putting in this video. There's obviously quite a few that I probably missed, but regardless, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and like it, and if you didn't like it, leave a comment and I'll try to do better next time.